In the poem by Sekou Sundiata entitled Urban Music, he talks about, he asked the question, what did the slaves think about when they had time enough for themselves? And the answer was they thought about me and they thought about you, meaning that they thought about the future, what was to come. And I relate that to African futurism in the aspect that, in essence, that's what Semitic African people have always been, looking toward the future. The Dogon people of Mali were the first people in existence to map the Sirius star system. The KwaZulu of South Africa's name actually means the people of heaven. Henrietta Lacks, who was a woman who died of cancer in Baltimore, Maryland, and it was discovered that her cells would not die. They went on continuously. So they were secretly taken from her and experimenting on. But what a lot of people aren't aware of, that her essence, her cells, were the first human cells ever sent into orbit, into space in 1958. The Russian cosmonaut sent it into space to see how it would react and in orbit. And 2 years later, the United States NASA conducted the same experiment. In the scriptures, I always thought it significant when you think of the Bible was written and it says in parables, metaphors, and similes. There's so many similarities to the experience of African people in the diaspora throughout the world, and especially in America. When I think of the poem Psalm 137, which says that by the rivers of Babylon we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. For there they carried us away captive and required of us a song. And those that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of your songs of Zion. That is so significant when you think about how the stereotype of the happy slave was them singing in the cotton fields or the cane fields of the Caribbean, singing their songs. But when you think about it, what did they sing about? They sing songs about heaven and going up into the sky in the by and by. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long ways from home. Why would they sing about that? Well, they knew their home wasn't here. It was someplace else, someplace they were not at that time. The great jazz musician Sun Ra, who was also a scholar as well, who studied a lot on metaphysics and history of African Semitic people, would tell people that he was from the planet Saturn. And a lot of people at the time thought he was crazy, man. But it's significant that Saturn is known as the black planet. NASA, change the subject for a bit. NASA found out, and I think it was the 1970s. I remember even reading the article in the New York Times. They had the science section on Tuesdays. And I haven't seen this article or anything that relates to it in a long time, and I've looked into it. But one of the things they found was that after the astronauts, specifically the white astronauts, was in orbit for a significant amount of time, that their bones began to become brittle and they lost muscle mass. So in studying that, they also discovered that when they sent black astronauts into space, the same phenomenon wouldn't happen, or it would happen at a slower rate. And they were very perplexed about why this would happen. And one of my favorite movies is a cult movie with the great actor Joe Morton, and it's called Brother from Another Planet. And in this movie, it's literally about a black person who's escaped from slavery on another planet. He comes to Earth, and he's being pursued by white slave catchers. And where does he go? And he fits right in as Harlem, New York, also known as the Mecca of Black America. And when you look at this term Afro-Semitic and Hebrew and the people of with people of African descent, is very significant. And you look on the planet, on the continent of Africa, and throughout the continent in different countries, they usually have a segment of the people who have practiced the Hebrew faith for many years. Semitic people, the Limba people of South Africa, who's known for being of the priestly caste, when they actually did DNA tests on them to see were they actually Jews. These people who said that they were Jews who were practicing the Hebrew faith, they discovered not only were their DNA matched to people of Hebrew descent, Jewish descent, but they were of what is called the priestly caste. Also, in the Falasha, the most well-known Jewish Hebrew people on the continent from Ethiopia, who were airlifted to Palestine, which they call Israel, is another people from the African continent known as being Hebrews and Jewish people. And then when you think about the Igbos in Nigeria, there's a good portion of their people who also practice the faith of the Hebrew religion and keep to the laws of the Hebrew faith. So throughout Africa, and then there's probably much more, but largely it hasn't been studied and hasn't been brought out as significantly as other places and other people. So in essence, that's some of the things I wanted to bring out in the aspects and information on Afro-Semitic people.